Hello viewers, and welcome to another installment of the LOTR LCG Progression Series, a production by Cardboard of the Rings, the bi-weekly podcast about the Lord of the Rings, the card game, which is a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. My name is Mitch.
And I'm Matthew.
And today we're going to be taking a look at the very first scenario of the Heirs of Numenor Deluxe expansion. This is Peril in Pelargir, so Matthew, why don't you introduce us to our story?
So all three quests in this Deluxe expansion are exploring Eastern Gondor in the years leading up to the War of the Ring. This quest in particular, we have the shadow of Sauron rising with increasing violence against the Kingdom of Gondor. Our heroes have traveled southeast by ship from the Grey Havens at the request of the White Council, ready to aid the descendants of Numenor in their defense against the forces of Mordor. Upon reaching the port in Pelargir, our heroes are greeted by Lord Alcaron, a nobleman from the city of Minas Tirith. Lord Alcaron has urgent information for Faramir, but he's frightened that the enemy is after him. He asks our heroes to deliver a scroll to Faramir, and as our heroes agree, a band of ruffians appear, intent on intercepting the message.
So, before we take a look at the mechanics unique to this scenario, let's take a glance at our player deck, starting with myself. And in this video, I'm going to be using Dane Ironfoot, but I'm also including two tactics heroes, straying quite a bit from my normal approach by including Gimli and Thalin. Since we're going to be going up against the battle keyword for 2 out of our 3 quest phases, it's much more important that I include a lot of attack strength, so Gimli should hopefully come extremely in handy in this quest, as should allies like Erebor Battlemaster. I have a lot of powerful defensive effects like Defender of Ramas, and of course Gondorian Spearman and Spear of the Citadel, the goal here being to hopefully impale some of these very low hit point enemies before they actually manage to get very many attacks off, if any at all. I've also got effects like Fresh Tracks and Hail of Stones to increase my chances of something like that happening, Sneak Attack Gandalf, a host of dwarven attackers, some eagle allies to bolster my attack strength even further, and some other dwarf effects that you should be familiar with by now. So Matthew, what are you running today?
I am using one of our new heroes, Baragond, love him, and Legolas is making an appearance after quite a hiatus in our progression series. And then I'm using my favorite cheating hero, Glorfindel. Who would have thought that after hating on him so much in the card review that I'd use him in 3 or 4 videos? A lot of allies that I used back in the Mirkwood cycle are making reappearances. Vassal of the Windlord, Gondorian Spearman, Trollshaw Scout. Again, the same sort of logic with Mitch. We've got a lot of battle questing to do, but also I needed cheap allies, particularly things like Vassal of the Windlord, to be chump blockers should the need arise. This quest, this encounter deck, has a lot of enemies, and I wanted to be prepared for that. Arwen Undomiel's making her first appearance in my deck in order to boost up some defending a little bit or giving someone Sentinel who may not already have it. Rivendell Blade, Spear of the Citadel, sort of normal type attachments for me. Hands Upon the Bow is also making its appearance in our progression series, I believe. I don't think I've used it. Again, the hope with Mitch's Thalin and maybe Fresh Tracks or something, being able to use Hands Upon the Bow to take out some enemies before we have to defend from them. Most enemies in this encounter deck have really nasty engagement or when attack effects, and so hopefully Hands Upon the Bow can help mitigate those quite a bit. So I'm hoping that the combo of our 2 decks here will be enough to overcome the Peril in Pelargir.
Well, here's hoping. So taking a look at our quest card, 1A reads Setup. Search the encounter deck for the Leaping Fish and Alcaron Scroll. Make the Leaping Fish the active location and attach Alcaron Scroll to a hero. So here on our full-size screen, as you can see, we've changed stuff up and blocked the ribbon from the very top of the screen there. The Leaping Fish is 6 quest points, it's 2 threat and a city. If Alcaron Scroll, an objective that's going to be very important during this scenario, is attached to a hero, this gains Forced. At the beginning of the quest phase, discard X cards from the top of the encounter deck, where X is the number of players in the game. Add each enemy discarded by this effect to the staging area. So, as long as we've got this scroll attached to someone, that's going to be 2 potential enemies prior to quest resolution that are going to be sitting there in the staging area. For Alcaron's Scroll, we have to attach this to a hero, so I'm going to go ahead and take control of this, and we've agreed that we're going to slap this on Glorfindel, and this reads, if unattached, return Alcaron's Scroll to the staging area and it gains action. Exhaust a hero to attach this objective to that hero. And forced, when the hero with this objective attached is damaged by an enemy attack, you attach the scroll to that enemy. So even though we're going to need this attached to pass quest phases 2 and 3, it's going to be pretty important that we ditch this as quickly as possible, just because the Leaping Fish has that nasty location, and there are a host of others in the encounter deck that really harm us while we have this objective stuck on a hero. But before we move to our second quest card, since we're supposed to do our hands before any of this setup stuff, why don't we go ahead and shuffle our player decks? I suppose I'll make myself the first player, and we'll draw our opening hand of 6 cards, so hoping for the best.
It's such a hard call. My hand's pretty good, but I'm going to mulligan.
Okay. Mine is really tricky. I think I'm going to hold on to it. It could work out very well. It could not. So I'll hold on to it.
Okay. Well, didn't get Light of Valinor in either hand, but my second hand, while maybe not quite as strong as the first one, isn't horrible.
Alright, well, I suppose that's not too terrible then. So, finishing our setup, let's go ahead and flip our first quest card, since these are now two-sided, and this reads, when revealed, each player must search the encounter deck for a copy of Harbor Thug and add it to the staging area, shuffling the encounter deck. So, OCTGN and the LOTR module have been updated recently. I've got to click over to the Global tab, and I'm going to go ahead and take a look at our encounter deck here. So I will put one Harbor Thug in the staging area, and here's a second one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that and shuffle it, click back to my player tab, and both of these enemies are 2 threat, 3 attack, 1 defense, 3 hit point thugs, and as soon as the player whose hero has Alcaron's Scroll raises his threat, the thug engages that player. So we'll have to see if we want to use Glorfindel's Forced effect to our advantage here. But I suppose, shall we go ahead and start our first turn?
Let's do it.
Alright, so resource phase, 1 resource to each of our heroes. Draw 1 card. I ended up getting a very powerful dwarf attacker. I suppose what I'm gonna do is I'll do 2 resources for a Defender of Ramas. And how about yourself?
I will play a Spear of the Citadel. That's the card I just drew on Baragon for free.
Fantastic.
I feel the need to put an ally out, so I'm going to play a Vassal of the Windlord.
Okay.
And then I will put a Rivendell Blade on Legolas.
Sounds like a pretty fantastic first turn. I've got an eagle in my hand that might accompany yours pretty soon. So it looks like we're on to the quest phase, and before either of us can commit any characters, we've got this forced effect resolved. So at the beginning of the quest phase, discard X cards from the top of the encounter deck, where X is equal to 2, and we have to add any enemies into play. So making sure the encounter deck is shuffled, encounter card number 1...
Come on, Location Treachery.
...is a location, so this
Yay.
is discarded. Encounter card number 2...
Location Treachery
is an enemy,
and
this is actually
a nasty one.
Very, very nasty enemy. So at least we got rid of most of our resources, but I'm sure we've probably both got 2 cost minor sphere cards we'd like to play.
Yep.
At the moment, we're up against 7 threats.
Okay.
Who do we want to commit to the quest? I guess, let's see. It's tricky. I suppose we can assume some more enemies are going to come into play. If you were to do Glorfindel, we'd be up against fewer enemies. I can do 2 defenses, no problem. I'm not sure if I want to send Gimli or not. So I'll definitely do Thalon. Tentatively, I'll do Gimli. What are you thinking of sending?
I mean, the Eagle would go for a lot. It would go for 3.
Yeah.
But he could just as easily be a blocker.
I suppose since I'm the first player, and I'll be able to take, say, 2 enemies, I suppose I'll leave Thalon back. These vassals might be just better serving us as, like, quest point engines.
Alright, so I will send Glorfindel, raise my threat by 1,
Okay.
which means these guys, the thugs come right back down, or come right down to me
Right.
because of their force effect,
Right.
and then I'll send my vassal as well. So I'm sending a total of 6.
Alright, and I'm sending a modified 3 for a total of 9, but we're only up against 3 to start. Because the encounter deck is now under the global tab, I'm going to use keyboard shortcuts, like so many viewers have requested I do. So I'm going to go ahead and reveal our very first encounter card, so Control E, and it is yet another Harbor Thug. So 1 damage from Gimli straight away, and encounter card number 2 is a Lurking in Shadows. So this is unfortunate. This is return all brigand enemies engaged with players to the staging area. If it returned no brigand enemies, then it gains Surge. It's looking like the only brigand is the bandit, so it is going to gain Surge. Control E. It is replaced by Pickpocket, which would make it a great target for your Spear of the Citadel, and this is when it attacks, the defending player discards 1 resource and 1 card at random from his hand. So we're up against a total of 5, 6, 7, 8 threat. We're going to end up making 1 quest progress, and we don't have any opportunity to travel. For engagement, it looks like every enemy is going to engage. I think what I want to do is I'm going to optionally engage this bandit. Why don't you take the Pickpocket, so you'll have to optionally engage him.
Okay.
And he's a pretty weak attacker. And then, doing engagement checks, this Harbor Thug is going to come down to me. So, now that this Lothar bandit has engaged me, I have to discard 1 resource from each of my heroes' resource pools. So, this 1 resource on Dane is gone, and that's going to delay my resource acceleration. For shadow effects, I'm going to go ahead and Control S to put them out like this. As first player, this Harbor Thug, I'm going to go ahead and defend with Dane Ironfoot. So his shadow card is nothing. And this is the biggest, nastiest enemy in the entire encounter deck, so I definitely don't mind seeing that go. Dane is going to take no damage. For the Bandit, I'm going to go ahead and defend with my Defender of Ramas. The shadow effect is attacking enemy gets +2 attack. So my Defender of Ramas is going to be killed. And that is it for my defenses. How about yourself?
I will do the Pickpocket undefended.
Alright.
And so I have to take away a resource.
Okay. So the shadow card is going to be return attacking enemy to the staging area after he attacks, and that forced effect also has you discard 1 card at random from your hand.
Bofer.
Okay. So I've got a couple copies of him in my deck, not the end of the world. I guess he's going to bounce over to the staging area.
Yep.
You assigned that 1 point of damage to Glorfindel, so Alcaron's Scroll is going to go and stick onto our Pickpocket here. And what do you want to do with the Harbor Thugs?
Baragon will do 1 of them.
Alright, so Baragon does 1. Shadow card is any damage dealt by this attack is dealt to the hero with Alcaron's Scroll. There is currently not 1. One of the reasons we want to get rid of that. He's going to take 1 point of damage from that Spear of the Citadel. And how about this other Harbor Thug?
Yeah, I'm going to do this one undefended.
Alright, so hoping for the best. The shadow card is nothing.
Nothing. And local trouble, so that's
nasty effect gone. So 3 damage to 1 of your heroes. And keep in mind, I've got a couple plates in this deck. So now that defenses are done for attacking, Gimli isn't able to do much, but I'm going to go ahead and have him attack for 2 to put 1 more point of damage on the Harbor Thug. Maybe I'll get lucky and draw a Spearman. And that is it for my combat. How about yourself?
I will kill with Legolas with his blade, I will kill the undamaged Harbor Thug.
Alright, so defense drops to 0. He takes 3 points of damage. He is killed. Shadow card is immediately discarded. Legolas's ability triggers to do 2 points of damage on our active location that no longer has a forced effect. And I suppose that's it for combat. So let's discard our shadow cards here. And shall we Control R to refresh?
Let's do it.
Alright, so They give us this odd warning screen for some reason. I'll go ahead and make you the first player, and I suppose we might as well do the resource phase. So 1 resource to each of our characters. I ended up getting a spectacular ambush card that might come very much in handy.
So I will play the Citadel Plate.
All right.
On Baragon for 2.
Fantastic.
And that's all that I can do.
Okay, so for me, I'm gonna go ahead and do 1 resource off of Thalon, and I'm gonna put into play a Vassal of the Windlord, and that's all I'm gonna be doing for planning. So at the present moment, we've got 3 quest points left on our active location and 6 quest points on our current quest phase. Quest Phase 2 is also going to be battle, and then our final quest phase is actually going to be traditional willpower questing. But it looks like we've still got a ways to go. We've got 1 enemy sitting here in the staging area. We're only going to be staging 2 cards. I've got a couple different effects to potentially get rid of some enemies this turn. So who are you looking to commit to the quest?
I can certainly do my Vassal for 3.
Okay, and I'm thinking I'll also be doing mine, and that would give us a total of 9 committed.
That's pretty good.
I think on my turn, before I finish committing characters to the quest, I'm going to go ahead and pull 1 resource off Dane Ironfoot, and I will do a sneak attack.
I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
And I'm going to go ahead and target Gandalf. I will pick my Lothar Bandit to take 4 points of damage, circumventing that 3 defense, so it is killed, and I'm also going to commit Gandalf to the quest. That would be a total of 13. We only need to make 9 progress. I think that's probably looking pretty good. So,
Okay.
Why don't we go ahead and do staging?
Alrighty.
Alright, so encounter card number 1 is another Lothar Bandit.
Oh, jeez.
Encounter card number 2 is a City Street, which surges.
Mm-hmm.
So encounter card number 3 is a Zealous Traitor.
Okay.
So this deals damage to allies.
Mm.
So before we resolve our quest, I've got a Hail of Stones that could potentially destroy one of these. I'm not sure if you've got any...
Nope.
I guess you don't have any resources
Nope.
open for tricks.
Nope.
I could do 2 defenses. I think what I'm going to do is I'll spend 1 resource off of Gimli, and I'm going to go ahead and play Hail of Stones. So I'm going to exhaust Gimli, and I'll deal 1 point of damage to this Zealous Traitor to try and preserve our Vassals of the Windlord. So that is going to be killed prior to quest resolution, and I don't have any other tricks I can pull out. So we're going to be up against a total of 8 threats. We've committed a total of 13 to the quest, which means we're going to make 5 progress. So that will do 6 on our location, 2 on our current quest phase. I'm going to go ahead and Control V to add the leaping fish to our victory display. And that is it for questing. So for travel, do we want to go to this city street?
Sure.
Alright, so we'll make that active. Looks like we can tear through that pretty quickly next turn. Just 6 quest points between us and the next quest phase. For engagement, you are the first player. It's possible for you to take both of these, so I can just do my defense with Dane.
Sure.
Okay, so why don't I just go ahead and have you optionally engage 1, and then engagement checks the other. So Lothar Bandit engages you. You've got to discard 1 resource from each of your heroes. And then the Pickpocket also has its attacking effect. But let's go ahead and do some shadow cards. So starting with the Pickpockets, then the Thug, then the Bandit, and then my Thug. How do you want to deal with these attacks?
Baragon will defend the Thug.
Okay, so it's going to take 1 point of damage from that spear right away. And its shadow card is discard all resources, so it doesn't end up doing anything to you. So how about the other 2 attacks?
So I will do the Pickpocket undefended.
Okay. Its shadow card is... Defending player discards 1 of his attachments, discard all if undefended. So it looks like that is gonna sting a little bit. And for assigning that 1 point of damage, it looks like probably Glorfindel is your safest bet.
Yep.
Alright, so awful luck there, but hopefully we'll still be able to make it through this. And how about the Losernock Bandit?
Well, I was going to do him undefended with my beefy Baragond.
Well, I suppose undefended attack. Shadow card is... any damage dealt is to the Alcaron Scroll hero, so Baragond will take 3. For my attacks, the Harbor Thug will attack Dane. Shadow card is nothing, so I don't take damage. Gandalf, of course, bounced back into my hand at the end of the quest phase. And how do you want to attack these characters back?
Well, Legolas will kill the Thug.
Okay, so the Thug is going to take 2 points of damage. He's killed. Shadow card is discarded. 2 quest points on our active location, and it is immediately explored. And what else?
And then Glorfindel will attack the Pickpocket.
Alright, and the Pickpocket is killed, its Shadow card is discarded, and Alcaron's Scroll is returned to the staging area. And it doesn't look like we need that attached to pass the first quest phase. You're out of attacks, I suppose. Shall we refresh?
Once you discard the Shadow cards, yeah.
Alright, let me get rid of those. And Control R refreshes my characters. If you'd be so kind as to make me the first player, I suppose we'll do our resources and draw 1 card. And for planning, I guess I've got a combat trick that's going to allow me to completely disregard 1 attack, and other than that, I can't really do anything. Did you discard a card when your Pickpocket attacked you?
I don't remember if I discarded a card or not for that Pickpocket, so I just did a discard now, and it was Arwen.
Alright, well, for planning, I am not going to be doing anything this turn, so how about you?
I can play Gondorian Spearman.
Alright, so at least we've got something, since the Spear of the Citadel is gone. And I take it that's all?
That's it.
Okay, so for questing, I'm probably going to do 6 as per usual. And how about yourself? Alright, so the Vassal of the Windlord. That's going to give us a total of 9. And let's see what we get. Encounter card number 1 is Harbor Storehouse, a location with 4 quest points, and each time a location is discarded, raise each player's threat by 1. Encounter card number 2 is another Harbor Thug, so it takes 1 point of damage. We're up against 3 threat. We're going to end up making a total of 6 progress. So, we complete our current quest phase, we move on to 2A, which is just flavor text, we flip it to 2B, and this is also battle. We cannot advance to the next stage unless we have Alcaron's Scroll attached to a hero. When revealed, attach Alcaron's Scroll to the highest engagement cost enemy in play. It looks like it's a tie between these 2 Harbor Thugs. I'm probably going to be able to kill mine, so I'm going to go ahead and stick that to this guy. For travel, do we want to go to the warehouse here?
Sure.
Alright, so we'll make that active. I know I definitely don't have much threat reduction in this deck. I do have a little bit. For engagement, the Harbor Thug is going to come down and engage with one of us. Shall I take it, or do you want to?
No, I can take it. That's fine.
Okay, so Harbor Thug is to you. For combat, I'm going to do a shadow card to my guy, shadow card to both of yours. For attacks, I will have Dane Ironfoot defend against this guy. Shadow card is nothing.
Ugh, why do you keep getting the nothings?
And how do you want to deal with your attackers?
Paragon will do the Harbor Thug.
Okay, so Harbor Thug, and it's any damage dealt by this attack is dealt to a hero with Alcaron Scroll attached if able. So, nothing.
Gondorian Spearman will do the Bandit.
Alright, so it takes 1 point of damage, and its shadow card is defending player discards his hand.
Well, bye-bye Hands Upon the Bow and my other Arwen. And then my Gondorian Spearman dies.
Okay. And for attacking back, I suppose I'll have Gimli swing for 2 and kill the Harbor Thug. Alcaron Skull returns to the staging area. And what do you want to do?
I'll kill the bandit.
Alright, so both of your characters combine, and I feel awful, but I just realized I've got a feint sitting there in my hand that could have maybe spared you from that awful discard, but you do finally kill the bandits. That's all the actions available. At the end of combat, that shadow card remaining goes away, because
we get to place 2
Legolas...
progress. Yep.
Thank you very much. So 2 points of progress on our active location. And I think that's it, so let's refresh. I'll make you first player, I'll draw 1 card, and I will do my resources.
I can't do anything.
So what I will do is I'll do 2 resources off Thalin, and I will do a Citadel plate on Baragon. And I will do 2 resources off of Dane in order to do a Steward of Gondor. I'm going to go ahead and trigger that right away. I'll pay 3 resources to do an Erebor Battlemaster. And I think that is it for me.
Okay.
So, I suppose that brings us to questing. And what do you want to do?
I'll send 3.
Alright, so you're going to do 3. I will do 6. I suppose I'm going to also send Gimli. So I'm going to do a total of 9 myself. That brings us to 12. My thought here is the Battlemaster should be able to smash any enemy that Dane defends against. So, let's see what we get for staging. Encounter card number 1 is a Local Trouble. So attach this card to the hero with the highest threat cost without a copy of Local Trouble attached. And this is whenever attached hero exhausts, readies, or triggers an ability, raise its controller's threat by 1. So I suppose that's going to go attached to Dane Ironfoot. And since we don't have any lore, there's no Miner of the Iron Hills to save us. I don't suppose you've got a cancellation.
I do, but not of the treachery variety.
Alright. Well, damn. I guess that's going to make it painful if he does any defending for me. Second shadow card is a Zealous Traitor. So this is going to take 1 point of damage right away. When this engages, it deals damage to all allies. I don't have any cute way of getting rid of this, so it looks like it's going to end up killing something. We're up against 2 threat. We've sent a total of 12 to the quest. We're going to make a total of 10 progress. So 2 is absorbed by our active location, and that leaves 8 to be placed on our quest card here.
Okay.
There's no option for us to travel. For engagement, we just have this Zealous Traitor. So let's see. How do we want to deal with this guy? It's going to kill our vassals either way. If I end up defending, I'll have to gain 2 threat, but that might be preferable to giving you something else to deal with.
Okay.
Alright, so why don't I engage him? So it's optional engagement. It's 1 damage to each ally I control. So the Erebor Battlemaster is still alive. Vassal of the Windlord is killed. And let's do some shadow cards. So starting with you, and then me. How do you want to deal with the Harbor Thug?
Baragon.
Okay. The shadow card is damage is dealt to the hero with Alcaron Scroll. Doesn't do anything. For my guy, I'm going to defend with Dane. So since he exhausts, I boost my threat up by 1. Any damage dealt is to Alcaron Scroll. Doesn't do anything. And then I'm going to go ahead and let you swing back.
Glorfindel will kill the Harbor Thug.
Okay, so Harbor Thug takes 2 damage. He's killed. Shadow card is gone.
And then Legolas will kill your dude over there.
Alright, so Legolas kills him, and he is gone. That's 2 quest points on our current quest card, 3 remaining until we pass. So, I suppose we're ready. I've got to boost up my threat by an additional 1 because of that Local Trouble. Looks like you've made me first player. I'll do 1 resource to each of my heroes. I'll trigger my Steward. I'll draw 1 card. I ended up getting something that's not too terribly useful at the moment. I think I'm going to go ahead and play We Are Not Idle now, picking 0 dwarf characters. I'm going to draw a card. It ended up actually being pretty decent. So why don't I do 1, 2, 3... resources, and I will put Beaufort into play. Unless that's going to cause problems for you?
Nope.
Okay. And I think that is that.
Okay.
And what are you going to be doing for planning?
I will not be playing anything.
Okay. So much damage and resources on your side of the table. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, for questing, I suppose I'm going to do 3, and I think I'll do Beaufort as well. So I will be doing 6.
And I'll send 3.
Okay, so a total of 9 should look pretty good. Again, we only need 3 progress. So let's see what we get. Encounter card number 1 is a Harbor Storehouse. Encounter card 2 is a Market Square.
Okay.
And this is actually an extraordinarily wimpy effect. Looks like we're up against 4 threat, which means we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 progress. We don't advance to the next stage unless Alcaron's Scroll is attached to a hero. At any point, we can use this action to attach Alcaron's Scroll to a hero, and that would put us in our final quest card, which is, when revealed, each of us has to search the encounter deck for 1 enemy and add it to the staging area, and the other card prevents us from optionally engaging enemies. So long as we've got Alcaron's Scroll attached, it causes a lot of immediate attacking. So definitely something to consider, since we've only got a couple locations here. I suppose, do we want to try and push through at this point?
I think we should push through.
Okay. Well, I do have some sort of combat trick to help me with that, so
Okay.
I guess during our travel phase, shall we get this Market Square out of the way?
Yep. And I'll spend a resource.
I'll pull 1 resource off of Dane, and that's our active location. During our action window, I suppose I'll exhaust Gimli to put Alcaron's Scroll on him. So he's got quite a big pool of hit points left. That means we've got our 15 out of 13 quest progress. We immediately pass on to quest phase 3A, which is each player searches the encounter deck and discard pile for 1 enemy and adds it to the staging area. So there's only 2 cards left in the encounter deck. One is a pickpocket, the other is a city street. I suppose I should shuffle that. And why don't I look at our discard pile? So we've got to add these to the staging area. I suppose pickpockets are pretty harmless. I've got to take control of the encounter discard pile. Loving this new version of OCTGN. Pickpocket in the staging area and another pickpocket in the staging area. So I'm going to close out at the discard pile. I'll go back to my player panel. Now we've got to do engagement. Shall we each optionally engage 1?
Wait, hold on. Don't we need to be on the other side of this quest card? Which means we can't optionally engage.
Alright. Well, yeah, okay. I don't know where this was. So, I'll put these here. Okay, alright, so... So now that we've got these enemies in the staging area, let's go ahead and flip our current quest card. This is enemies cannot be optionally engaged. The first enemy revealed from the encounter deck each round makes an immediate attack against the player who controls Alcaron's Scroll. And we cannot defeat this stage unless we have Alcaron's Scroll attached to a hero, but if we defeat this stage, we've won the game. So, hopefully this isn't going to go very bad right when we're so close to winning. For engagement checks, there's no optional engagement, so it looks like 1 each. A little bit earlier, Matthew caught this no optional engagement, so he had to back up the video as I'd already paid 1 resource, but I'm going to go ahead and put my feint on the table. So if you rewind the video, you should see 1 resource off of Gimli. My pickpocket will not be attacking, and I'm not going to lose my copies of an Istari.
I guess I will feint mine as well.
Okay.
So I don't have to deal with that.
Alright, perfect. So, for combat, let's do shadow cards.
Yep.
Since I forgot to do those, but of course they're not going to be attacking. My Erebor Battlemaster is going to take a swing at my pickpocket. He's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attack, which is more than enough to kill the pickpocket. The shadow card would have been +2 attack, so that's gone. And what do you want to do? Alright, so Legolas is more than enough to kill yours. Your shadow card would have been discard all attachments or discard 1 attachment. That is gone. Unfortunately, this location is immune to player card effects, so Legolas's ability is not gonna do anything.
Oh, well that sucks.
Yeah. I suppose that brings us to refresh?
Yep.
Alright, so Control R. I'll make you first player. I'll do resources, trigger my steward, draw 1 card. I ended up getting a spear. Awesome.
All I can do is play a vassal, which doesn't do as much help at this point.
Right, so at this point we're traditional willpower questing, which might be a little bit of trouble. Hopefully not. I suppose that's all you're doing for planning?
Yep.
Okay. For me, I certainly could put an Istari into play now, so I suppose I might as well do that. 2, 3, 4, 5 resources for a Gandalf.
I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
And as the effect, I think I want to drop my threat. I certainly would benefit from drawing cards, but just in case this takes us longer than expected to get through, I think that's probably safest. And Spear of the Citadel, I will go ahead and throw on Baragond for nothing.
Thank you.
I think he saved us, 8 resources this game?
Yeah.
So, awesome. And that's it for me. So for questing, who do we want to send?
I will send Glorfindel and raise my threat by 1.
Okay. And for me, I will do 2, 6, 7, 8, 9... Even though I'm going to be getting some additional attacks here, I think I will go ahead and send Gimli to the quest. So let me go ahead and boost that up to a total of 12 that we're sending. Even if we get a lot of enemies, maybe we'll be able to do this in 2 rounds. Who knows? And maybe Legolas's ability will trigger and make it easier for us. Yeah. So let's see what we get. Encounter card number 1... Looks like it has created an error for me since we're out of cards in the encounter deck, so I'm going to go ahead and shuffle our discard pile back into the encounter deck. I'm going to ensure that that's shuffled, and let's give that another shot. Encounter card number 1 is a Harbor Thug, so 1 point of damage. Encounter card number 2 is a City Street, which surges to an Umbar Assassin, and this is the worst thing we could have possibly ever gotten.
Well, the Harbor Thug needs to make an immediate attack against you.
Right. So let's see here. It does make an immediate attack against me, so let's go ahead and do a shadow card for that attack. I suppose let's think about this for a moment. So if I have Dane defend against that attack, this Umbar Assassin we need to have sit in the staging area. I can Gandalf him down my next turn, but if he engages with one of us, we have to discard a hero, and that, to me, is unacceptable. So why don't I guess I'll just do Dane as the defender. I've got to boost my threat by 1. Yep. The shadow card is defending player discards 1 of his attachments. Unfortunately, I don't control local trouble. That is immediately where my mind went. I guess I've got to get rid of my Steward of Gondor. So that is unfortunate, since that's going to kill my ability to Gandalf next turn. That is a hell of a lot of threat that we're up against, and he's doing archery damage.
Well, I completely forgot that this was sitting in my hand. So, the one and only card, of course, how I forgot, whatever. So I could cancel that, so we can have our wizard friend appear next turn.
That would be a lifesaver. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Alright, so that makes me feel much better. Dane, of course, does not take any damage. Let's discard this shadow card. Looks like we're up against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a total of 9 threats. But I forgot that since I raised my threat, this Harbor Thug comes down and has to engage with me due to his forced effect here. So that's going to be 2 fewer threat in the staging area, so it is simply 7. We make 5 progress, one of which is absorbed by our active location, and that means we're going to do 4 progress on our current quest phase.
Oh, it seems so wimpy.
Yeah. For travel, we've got either the city street or the harbor storehouse. I feel like we should probably get rid of the city street.
Okay.
Alright, so I'll make that one active. For engagement checks, I think we should leave the Umbar Assassin alone.
Yep. We can't deal with him anyway. We cannot optionally engage.
Right, and at the beginning of combat, that Archery 2, I'll throw those points of damage on Gandalf, since he's going to be leaving play anyway. And I will do 1 shadow card for my Harbor Thug.
Alright, I will defend him with Baragon.
Alright, so Baragon defends. Spear of the Citadel means he takes 1 immediate point of damage. Shadow card is Defending Player, which is me, discards 1 of his attachments.
So we...
And once again, that means I've got to get rid of my Steward of Gondor. So that really sucks.
Yeah, that does.
For attacking back, I suppose I'll have my Erebor...
Oh, well, no. Let me do it. That way we can clear the city streets.
Right, it could have been both, yeah. So...
Well, I suppose, but it's not needed.
Alright, so Legolas swings, kills the Harbor Thug. He is killed. The Shadow card is gone. The city street has 2 progress tokens on it, and it is immediately removed from play. Looks like that's all for combat, so refresh. Please make me first player. I'll draw 1 card and do my resources. Since Dane readied, I've got to boost my threat again. And it looks like I'm not going to be able to do our wizard this turn. How about you?
Well, I can play a copy of Unexpected Courage.
Okay.
The question is on whom?
Well, Gimli is certainly a good choice. Especially...
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's fine. You can take it.
Alright, so I'll take control of that. I suppose Baragon is also a really good choice, but...
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I suppose Gimli is fine. For my turn, I think I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 resources and do a Veteran Axe Hand, and that's going to be it for me. So, questing. I am going to go ahead and do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I suppose I'll send 10.
Alright, I will send Glorfindel for 3, raise my threat, and that's it for me.
Okay, so we're currently up against 5. Let's see what we get. So encounter card 1. I was wondering when we'd see one of these. So discard 2 cards from the top of the encounter deck, discard an additional 2 cards for each copy of collateral damage in the discard pile. And
luckily we just shuffled.
Yeah, let's hope this doesn't end up making the Umbar Assassin engage one of us. There are no copies of collateral damage in the encounter deck.
Although we have the Harbor Storehouse in play, of course.
Right.
So that's going to combo with this. So let's just discard the first 2 cards.
There aren't very many locations, so let's see what we get. Encounter card 1. Not a location.
Okay, good.
Encounter card 2 is not a location, so we really lucked out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and discard that, and encounter card number 2
collateral damage.
is a Harbor Thug. So he is going to make an immediate attack against me. I'm going to go ahead and declare Gimli as the defender, and his shadow card is return him to the staging area after he attacks. I suppose might as well. So Gimli is going to take 1 point of damage, and I'll get rid of that shadow card. So 2, 6, 7 threat against us. We are going to make a total of 6 quest progress, which is going to put us at 10 out of the 15. And because Gimli took some damage, it looks like we've got to attach Alcaron's scroll to this enemy here.
Yeah.
So, for travel, I vote we just leave this sitting. Since it looks like I'm not going to lose any resources next turn, I can get rid of this assassin and give us a really solid questing contribution. So.
Okay. Sure.
Alright, so for engagement, I vote leave the assassin in the staging area.
Well, we can't do anything about him anyway.
That's right, actually. No optional engagement. So Harbor
Nope.
Thug will come down and engage with me, I guess is the only option. But you've got some Sentinel characters there. So 1 shadow card for him.
So I will defend for you.
Okay, so he's going to immediately take 1 point of damage from Spear of the Citadel. His shadow card is deal attacking enemy an additional shadow card for each thug in play, so he gets 1 additional shadow card. The shadow card is...
Nothing.
Nothing. So that is it.
Alright, and then Legolas will swoop in for the kill.
Alright, so Legolas ends up killing him. His shadow cards are gone. Alcaron Scroll returns to the staging area. We gain 2 quest progress. And now we've got to exhaust a hero to grab Alcaron's Scroll.
With only 3 progress away, we can probably just snag it next turn.
Right, might as well. So why don't we go ahead and refresh?
Yep.
I'll make you first player. I'll do my resources. I will draw 1 card. And it's all you for planning.
Gimli can have a Citadel plate.
Alright, I guess that's fantastic. I'll take control of that. Slap that on Gimli here.
And it's all you.
Okay, so I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all my resources for Gandalf.
I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
I'm going to go ahead and pick the Umbar Assassin to take 4 points of damage. So it is killed. I guess during combat we forgot to do that archery damage.
Oh, right.
So I'm going to go ahead and put that on... I think I'm going to put it... Well, let's see. I don't want damage on heroes, necessarily. And we're not going to have an opportunity for, say,
I could
Zealous...
kill my vassals, but they're not doing any good.
Yeah. We're also not going to have Zealous Traders engage with us, so I think it's probably fine as is.
Okay.
So,
very good.
that is my 1 play, and shall we quest?
Let's do it. I will send Glorfindel for a whopping 3.
Alright, you gotta boost up your threat.
Oops, I think it just went up by, oh gosh.
2.
I think it should be 35, yeah.
Yeah, it should. So I'll do Gandalf for 4, Veteran 5, 6, 7, 8 with Beaufort, 9, Battlemaster, 12... and Gimli. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm doing 14 by myself. We only need 3. We've got a total of 17 thus far. I'll use Unexpected Courage to ready Gimli.
Okay.
And I suppose at this point, the first enemy revealed makes an immediate attack against a player who controls Alcaron Scroll. Nobody does, so it's not going to. And as soon as we make our quest progress, then we can exhaust a character to grab it. So, looks like we're good to go. So, encounter card number 1 is a Lothernok Bandit. Encounter card number 2 is a Zealous Trader. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 threat total that we're up against. Looks like we're going to make a total of 11 progress. That brings us to 23 out of the 15 tokens required. I'm going to go ahead and use my action window during the travel phase to put Alcaron Scroll on Gimli. And at this point, we control Alcaron Scroll. We've got 23 out of our 15 required quest points. We have won the game. So, Matthew, any final thoughts about this scenario?
Well, in Mitch and I sort of offline conversations, I have been dreading the Heirs of Numenor quests for months and months and months for the progression series. Not particularly this one. In Play with my buddies, I've typically had pretty good experiences with it. Into Ithilien, I think I want to slit my wrists. And then the Siege is fun, but it can certainly be difficult. So this, I don't think, was easy by any stretch. I have so much red on my side of the table. That always makes me nervous. Most of my heroes, well, I guess with the Citadel plate, Baragon's a little bit better, but really close to death on a lot of them. Losing my hand sucked. I lost an Arwen that would have been adding some extra defense and some extra willpower. Lost a Hands Upon the Bow, which could have cleared out an enemy. Of course, losing all my attachments earlier on was really crappy. We did get lucky with collateral damage. It was almost always a shadow card. We were lucky that we had just shuffled the discard pile back into the encounter deck. Otherwise, that would have just been atrocious. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to say it was fun because it was tense, I think, the entire time, at least for me. But I like the quest. I do definitely like that all of the Heirs quests have much more, a much stronger sort of narrative. I like that the enemy, like the pickpockets, steal money and resources from you. I've always thought that that was kind of cool. So, yeah, is this my favorite quest of all time? Absolutely not, but I don't dislike it either. So I had a pretty good time playing it, I think.
I definitely have to say I will echo your sentiments that this was very, very, very tense. Losing so many attachments was very frustrating. I thought it was so clutch that you remembered you've got a hasty stroke and could cancel that shadow effect, and then of course later on we got the same shadow effect. So maybe it would have ended a turn earlier. I'm just very glad that we were able to get this. It was definitely very tricky, even though these are relatively low hit point enemies, since we were both running Spear of the Citadel, since we were both running Gondorian Spearmen, that did not end up meaning that much. There were still lots of attacks that went through. Like you mentioned, there's damage all over the battlefield here. I'm very glad that we both went with a tactics-heavy approach. Certainly card draw was very lacking in this adventure, so I suppose all I can really say is I'm excited to see how Into Ithilien goes. Hopefully, just like you said, I'm not pulling my hair out by, the 15th or 20th attempt, so...
Right, yeah, I was going to also comment on how it was sort of, I don't know if fun's the right word, but it was definitely interesting that we both played tactics, and I think it worked well for this particular quest.
Definitely. So, I suppose I was kind of surprised that Gimli didn't end up getting very strong, but the Citadel plates ended up happening very late. The discarding so many cards kind of stunk, and we certainly had to do some damage control once Baragond lost his attachment. So, it went okay. It was very up and down. I'm just glad we made it through successfully to the end.
Yeah, so Into Ithilien. So that's coming up next. That's the bugger. Although with blocking wargs being errated, maybe it won't go as bad. Though I don't remember blocking wargs being my issue in that particular quest. It was just the annoying Southrons. But anyway, we can talk more about that next time. So yeah, I mean, definitely, Legolas was definitely a star in this quest. It was very nice to see him sort of back in play. I liked using Hands Upon the Bow. That was fun. Of course, I loved Baragon and the Spear. But yeah, card draw, I have 36 cards left in my deck. Lots of stuff I just never ever saw that would have been very nice. But hey, we pulled it out in the end, and that's all that matters, I suppose.
For sure. Well, I suppose that wraps up the video, so thank you guys for sticking it out to the very end. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button or subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already. Just like we mentioned, up next is going to be our scenario playthrough of Into Ithilien, so we'll see you again soon.